An interview from Conan O'Brien's show in 1997, and in the interview, Wilt Chamberlain claims that the unstoppable force that is Shaquille O'Neal would struggle against centers from the 1960s. In the same interview, listen what he goes on to say about Michael Jordan playing in his era.
Well, his playing style is he's 6'7" and he's like 197 pounds.
Y'all see the title, man. Let's get to it.
Let me start off this video by making my heart and feelings clear. I freaking love my job, and I love this group of subscribers that I've got. If you're a YouTuber and you're not grateful for your following, something must be wrong about the way you were raised.
Nah, no funny shit though, bro. I ain't gonna lie, it's a blessing to be able to sit here and react to videos, my brothers and sisters. No funny shit. Like, and y'all give me the ability to do that. And I ain't gonna lie, that's why I came back and stopped playing, man. I had to get back on my ground for real. Really build this up to something big, man. I'm telling y'all gonna see where we at, man. In a few, you know what I'm saying?
When I take my wife to dinner, we say a prayer and thank the Lord for what we've been given. And sometimes I literally audibly say, thank you subs as well. And we usually chuckle, but the gesture is genuine. I never want to lose that attitude of gratitude when it comes to
funny shit. Like, I be laughing and shit, but I'm so serious, y'all. Like, words about life.
How much you guys have blessed my life.
I was playing for top.
So anyway, enough already about that warm and fuzzy, sappy crap. Sometimes, not specifically my audience, but the basketball community in general, make certain narratives and critiques that honestly blow my mind with how ridiculous they are. And it gets to a point where you hear them regurgitated enough that it literally gets to the point of annoyance. I know I'm not speaking a foreign language here. You guys are basketball fans with your own strong opinions. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Today, I'm explaining the 3 things that annoy me the most about basketball fandom as a whole. And let me know in the comments what are some things that annoy you as well. First off, the criticism of quote bad defense in specific eras. This goes both ways. Older basketball fans criticize the general defense of the modern era, and younger basketball fans criticize the defense of past eras. Neither perspective particularly annoys me on the surface level, but for me, it's their approach that drives me insane. If you go on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, you'll see a highlight from past basketball eras, and in the comments will be annoying modern fans, talking about how defense was horrible back then. At the same time, you'll see current NBA highlights, and in the comments will be a bunch of triggered old guys talking about how bad defense is today. The annoying part is how people draw these massive conclusions based on anecdotal evidence. Anyone can draw some massive conclusion off of one specific play, but that play doesn't do an accurate job of portraying the lay of the land as a whole. Even the greatest defensive players in NBA history have had instances where they were lazy on defense, or didn't make the right rotations when they needed to. Now, if there's a massive 15-minute long compilation video of a specific player being lazy on defense, well then okay. Well, now we can solidify a narrative. But let's not be the kind of fan who saw one player poorly defending Michael Jordan, or one guy poorly defending LeBron James, so now we have to condemn an entire era for it. The more interesting conversation are the way defenses have changed throughout the eras, and the way the rules allow certain advantages while eliminating others. Stuff like the switch from the man defenses to zone defenses, the elimination of hand checking, the changes in refereeing, and the way the game is more spaced out due to better perimeter shooting. All of these are more worthy of an in-depth discussion than a couple of dudes getting lazy on defense, which has literally been happening since the day the game was invented. The second thing that significantly annoys me is when people tell me that I'm too biased towards older players. If any of you viewers consider yourself a basketball historian, get ready to hear a lot of this one. This is obviously coming fresh after my 30 greatest players video, and in the video, I gave my very subjective list of the best players of all time. As always, these types of lists tend to trigger people. Now, one of the more common criticisms was that my list was too biased toward older players. I'm not gonna lie, this was one of the dumbest casual takes I've heard. This is how these Neanderthals think. The last 15 years in NBA history are what they consider as new players, and the first 61 years of NBA history are all lumped together and are considered as old players. And if you're picking and ranking players higher from here than you are from here, then you're too biased towards older players. Not only are the quote older players a much larger pool, but all of these guys also have completed resumes, while the younger players do not.
I was just about to get into that, like their careers are done, you know? A lot of these guys are playing more than 15 years.
Many people are wanting to catapult Nikola Jokic into the top 10 greatest players of all time. And sure, he's had a remarkable peak. But when you compare his complete body of work to, say, Hakeem Olajuwon, who is a guy who is typically placed on the edge of the top 10, then you can see how it's not a fair comparison, as the newer player is still in the process of producing a full legacy. Now listen, angry 15-year-old in the chat, unlike you, the NBA was not born yesterday. In the rich history of this game, there are many incredibly talented and deserving individuals. You're talking about more than 6 decades worth of amazing basketball that you simply write off as older players. The issue isn't that we're too biased towards older generations. The issue is that you have a very limited knowledge of basketball history. But you know, it's a free country, so go ahead and keep calling everything that's happened in the last 10 years the greatest thing of all time, even though your conscious reality of time is roughly 10 years. You are definitely the arbiter of what's the greatest thing of all time. Now you guys didn't think I was just gonna go after some of the younger fans, right? Nope. For my third topic of annoyance, I'm looking at a few of the older fellas in the community who always love to claim that modern players wouldn't have survived in previous eras. I hate to break it to you, but this everything was better back in my day rhetoric is something that's basically always been a thing in the NBA. This is an interview from Conan O'Brien's show in 1997. And in the interview, Wilt Chamberlain claims that the unstoppable force that is Shaquille O'Neal would struggle against centers from the 1960s. In the same interview, listen what he goes on to say about Michael Jordan playing in his era.
Well, his playing style is he's 6'7" and he's like 197 pounds. Coming into what we call our domain, the pivot for us big guys, would not have been very wise of Michael, you know, if he was playing during our time. So we would say, Michael, you know, as long as you do all those fancy things outside of where we are, that's fine. So it wouldn't have been good for Michael.
Really?
No.
You think he'd have been crushed, is what you're saying?
I don't think. I know he'd been crushed. Right, yeah.
So you're saying Michael Jordan back then would have been on the bench the whole time?
Absolutely. You know, being considered how to think about that. And that's the truth.
This isn't just a Wilt Chamberlain
Come on, Will.
thing either, but guys like Julius Erving and many others have made claims like this as well. At one point, this was a common narrative coming from the older generation, that the 90s was the era of soft basketball. 30 years after Wilt played, people were belittling the competition of Michael Jordan. And now, 30 years after Michael Jordan played, people are belittling the competition of the modern game. Now sure, in different eras, there are different rules. In the 80s, you could straight up clobber someone and not get severely punished for it, since the flagrant foul basically wasn't implemented until the year 1990. With that being said, a guy who's 6'9", 260 pounds is allowed to dish out physical punishment as well. Sure, the bad boy Detroit Pistons would have tried to clobber a guy like LeBron James, but that's easier said than done. Defensive playstyles like that would certainly be an adjustment for modern players. But when you say a guy like LeBron or Steph Curry wouldn't survive in the 80s or 90s, do you mean that literally? If not, do you mean that they would just retire? Of course they wouldn't. That's ridiculous. They would adapt and they would thrive. I believe the physicality of previous generations has less to do with the mental toughness of the players and is more about what the league permitted back then compared to the more strict modern NBA. Acting like these grown men would go home crying to their mama, is a little overly dramatic to say the least.
Nah,
So
for
what do you
real.
guys
Come
think?
on, yeah,
What is the most annoying thing to you about the
Like,
basketball community?
Like, you guys are grown men. You know what I'm saying? Of course, it's a little more physical, but you act like if the NBA starts allowing a whole bunch of physicality right now, there's a bunch of guys in the NBA that's gonna be on that. You know, it's not like they just not gonna get physical. A lot of they're not getting physical because the rule changes, man. They can't get physical for real, so you can't really, yeah, man. If y'all enjoyed, you know what to do. Like the video, share the video. Turn on post notifications, click on the last reaction. And I'm out of here, man.